Hey there. I'm genuinely thankful you're here watching this. And if you feel like subscribing, just know, it means everything to me. Your support, that's what keeps all of this moving forward. Now let's get into it. I'm Daniel Whitmore, 42, born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. I built a logistics consultancy from scratch, and for over 2 decades, I've specialized in transforming chaos into clarity for some of the world's largest corporations. I'm trained to catch patterns, manage risk, and move decisively. So how did I miss the signs? Helena, my wife, had a presence that couldn't be ignored, the kind that altered the energy in any room she entered. She was sharp, effortlessly charming, with a laugh that felt like it carried secrets meant only for you. From the moment we met, I felt like I'd hit the universal jackpot. She used to tell me she admired how I could dissect people, see their intentions like blueprints. Maybe she meant it, or maybe that was just part of the performance, because eventually people change, or they stop hiding who they are. The clues came quietly at first. A different scent after her showers, jasmine, not the subtle vanilla she usually wore. When I asked about it, she brushed it off with a casual, "Found a new brand on sale." No explanation, no eye contact, just a hollow chuckle. Then her phone habits shifted. What used to lie forgotten on kitchen counters was now glued to her hand. Always flipped over, locked, never out of reach. At night, it stayed tucked beneath her pillow. She didn't need to lie. Her actions screamed everything she wouldn't say. And still, I told myself it was probably nothing. We'd been married nearly 8 years. No kids, just us. We had our usual routines. Morning coffee, the occasional dinner out, regular date nights. Not thrilling, but dependable. At least that's what I thought. Elena worked in non-profit, focusing on women's health. A stable gig, low stress. Then suddenly she was busier, late nights, evening workouts, book club meetings, errands that multiplied. But her car's GPS logs told another story. She wasn't at the gym, or the library, and she definitely wasn't browsing bestsellers. My mind shifted from doubt to calculation. I told her I'd be heading to Austin for a fake logistics conference. She didn't even blink, just kissed me on the cheek and told me to have a good trip. That night, I checked into a local hotel under a fake name. The next day, I contacted Harrison Lee, a former Army buddy who now runs a security firm out of D.C. I asked for surveillance gear. No questions, fast delivery. Within hours, I had 3 discrete cameras, small enough to hide in plain sight. I placed them myself, in the kitchen, bedroom, and living room, all streaming live video to a secure tablet. At 6 p.m., Elena left for what she claimed was yoga, but she wore a silk robe, subtle makeup, and carefully styled hair. Not exactly gym attire. When she walked out, she didn't just leave the house, she stepped out of the lie we'd been living. So I waited. And at precisely 2:13 the next afternoon, the truth arrived. A man in his 30s, dark hair, confident. He entered like he belonged. I recognized him, Drew Parker, someone she used to work with. We'd crossed paths once at a fundraiser. He hadn't raised any red flags back then. They met in the hallway, kissed, not with the secrecy of an affair, but with the familiarity of partners who shared a home. The camera caught it all. Wine poured, playful flirting, her slipping off that robe to reveal lingerie I'd never seen before. But the part that hurt the most wasn't what they did. It was her smile. She looked whole, joyful, like she was where she truly belonged. This wasn't a one-time mistake. She'd constructed another life, one where I was just the financial backing and a necessary omission. I didn't explode, didn't numb myself with alcohol or grief. I got to work. I archived the footage, captured stills, logged time codes, built a timeline of behavior. I traced her bank activity to a luxury Airbnb tucked away in a quieter neighborhood. Their love nest. I didn't plan revenge. I planned collapse, with precision, with truth. Her parents adored me. Margaret, her mother, once told me I was the best decision Elena had ever made. Her father, Raymond, retired sheriff, used to take me hunting. They thought Elena could do no wrong. That belief was about to be shattered. I invited them over for lunch at our house, told them we needed to talk, that it was about Elena, that they needed to witness it themselves. Raymond asked if she was in danger. Not physically, I told him, but emotionally, you'll want to be sitting down. They agreed. I gave them my word there would be answers. Elena had no idea her carefully curated sanctuary was about to host a reckoning. By Friday, I had Drew's routine mapped out better than he did. He arrived at 2:15, left before 5:30, never spent the night. He used my coffee mugs, my speakers, even wore my old hoodie, one she'd claimed was hers when she was cold. My anger didn't scream, it focused. Most people don't get men like me. I don't shout, I don't break things, I dismantle. At 1:59 p.m. that Saturday, Margaret and Raymond pulled into the driveway. I was stationed in a rented SUV down the street, tablet in hand, all cameras rolling. Elena opened the front door. Satin robe, flawless makeup, curled hair, a look that clashed with the calm of a lazy Saturday. Margaret looked unsettled. Raymond narrowed his eyes. "Elena," he said, voice hard, "you didn't mention anyone visiting." "I didn't know you were coming," she replied, clearly rattled. "What's going on?" "Daniel called," Margaret said softly, gripping her purse like a lifeline. "Said it was urgent. Said we needed to see it with our own eyes." Elena forced a smile. "Weird? He told me he was out of town." Raymond's voice darkened. "Then why are you dressed like you're expecting someone?" She faltered, let out a sharp fake laugh. "I was just about to take a long bath. Rough week." She drifted to the living room. They followed. Margaret perched tensely on the couch. Raymond stood near the window, arms crossed. Elena tried to regain control of the moment, offered water, made small talk, but the mask was cracking. Then, at 2:28, the tablet buzzed. Motion alert. Drew Parker, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine, tight jeans, button-down shirt, perfectly styled hair, walked up the steps, holding a bag with wine, chocolate, and strawberries. I felt the corners of my mouth lift. Before Elena could react, Raymond opened the door. "Hey, babe," Drew said, stepping in. "I grabbed the wine." He froze. Raymond stood like stone. Margaret appeared behind him, fists clenched. And Elena? She looked like the air had been knocked from her lungs. Raymond's voice cut the silence. "Who the hell are you?" Drew stammered, trying to recover. Delivery?" Margaret's voice sliced through him. "You called her babe." Drew swallowed, his confidence unraveling fast. "I think we've come to the wrong house," Elena whispered, her voice shaking. "Drew." Raymond swung around, eyes narrowing. "What did he just call you?" "Dad, wait, it's not what you think," she said, panic rising in her throat. Raymond gestured sharply toward the young man. "And who the hell is this?" Drew stepped back instinctively. "We're only friends. I didn't realize she was—" "You knew she was married," I said, stepping into the room. All heads turned toward me. 4 sets of eyes, 4 stark reactions. Elena went pale, horror spreading across her face. Drew looked like he'd been blindsided. Margaret blinked in shock as if reality hadn't caught up yet. "Raymond?" He was seething. "I thought you were still in Austin," Elena said weakly. "I was," I replied, "watching this house from across the street while you twirled around in my bathrobe with that clown." I raised the manila envelope in my hand. Inside, pictures, receipts, screen captures, 6 days' worth of evidence meticulously gathered. Margaret reached toward me, her voice barely audible. "This can't be happening." "I wish it weren't," I told her. Raymond took a threatening step forward. "You let that man into your home? Into your marriage? While your husband worked himself to the bone to give you this life?" Elena staggered, her hand gripping the edge of the table to keep upright. "I didn't plan any of this, it just—" "You planned every second," I cut her off. "Each lie, each excuse, every fake gym session." Raymond's eyes fixed on Drew like a target. "Get out of my house," he growled, voice vibrating with fury, "before I teach you what a real man looks like." Drew stumbled back, but Raymond advanced, menace radiating from his frame. "I've seen soldiers with calmer expressions. You insulted my daughter, degraded this family, and spat on this man's vows," he said, voice like thunder. You think you can strut in, cause wreckage, and walk away unscathed? Then he struck. Quick, clean, devastating. The wine bag Drew held hit the floor, shattering. He reeled, and Raymond yanked him by the collar, slamming him into the wall. "Raymond!" Margaret cried, rushing forward. But the rage ended with that one blow. No need for a second. The silence that followed was heavier than any fist. Drew scrambled for the door and disappeared. I faced Elena. "You have 1 hour to pack," I said. "By sunrise, your name is off everything." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I never wanted this." "But you chose it," I said flatly. "You just never thought you'd get caught." I dropped the envelope beside her trembling hand. "This ends here. Your marriage ended the second you called him babe under my roof." I tapped the top sheet. "There's a prenup and 37 gigs of proof. You'll leave with nothing but your parents' shame." Raymond stood beside me, voice breaking with grief. "Elena," he said, "this isn't who I raised." She collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking her body. But no one reached out. Sometimes the people who love you most are the first to step away after betrayal. Even after Drew had gone, Elena remained silent. Her face was blank, distant, not just from guilt, but from the realization that the mask had dropped, and she no longer recognized the woman beneath it. Margaret perched at the couch's edge, still as stone. Her hands trembled, her eyes fixed on the rug as though it might reveal an explanation. Raymond stood off to the side, arms locked across his chest. He looked at his daughter as if she were a stranger who had wandered into his home. I held out the final document from the folder. The prenup. Signed, highlighted. The infidelity clause unmistakable. Elena's lips parted, but she couldn't speak. "You lost it all," I said quietly. "No support, no claim to the house or the business, not even the dog, if we'd ever gotten one." Her throat moved as she swallowed. "So this is really it?" "No," I said. "It ended the night you let someone else take my place." Raymond exhaled slowly as though he were holding back a lifetime of disappointment. "You didn't just cheat on your husband," he said. "You dishonored your mother, our name, everything we gave you." "I was alone," Elena whispered. "And you were deceitful," I answered. "Instead of bridging the gap, you chased validation. You ran from the hard conversations." "I was unhappy," she said, her voice cracking. "Then you should have left," Margaret cut in, her tone razor sharp. "But don't pretend we are the villains." The air grew thick, weighed down by everything unspoken. Then Elena did something unexpected. She lashed out. "You weren't there," she shouted. "You were married to your job, not me. You stopped seeing me. I became part of the furniture, and when I tried to talk, you acted like I was crazy." I didn't flinch. "Maybe I failed you. Maybe I forgot to hold on tighter. But you didn't walk away. You didn't say you were done. You said, 'I do.' Then you said, 'Come over to someone else.'" She wiped her tears and faced her mother. "You told me to marry someone who could give me everything. Well, I did. And it still wasn't enough." Margaret's voice wavered with sorrow. "Because you never learned how to value anything." I looked at Raymond. "You asked why I brought you both into this," I said. He gave a solemn nod. "Because if I came alone, she'd spin the story, twist the truth, make me the villain. But I needed you to see the truth for yourselves. You're the only ones whose judgment might still mean something to her." Raymond approached her slowly, gaze fixed on her tear-streaked face. "You're not welcome here," he said. "Not until you face what you've done." Elena sank deeper into the cushions. No one moved. It was over. The illusion shattered, the fantasy gone, and everything she built on dishonesty crumbled with it. I reminded her of the hour she had to leave. Raymond and Margaret stayed while she packed in silence. I followed her into the bedroom, watching as she folded her clothes with trembling hands. She didn't look at me once. "What was it really?" I asked. "Why him?" She froze, then said softly, "Because he made me feel seen. Like I mattered. I didn't feel invisible anymore." I gave a small nod. "You know what hurt the most?" I said. "Not the cheating, but that you thought I wasn't strong enough to hear the truth." She turned, eyes rimmed with red. "Would you have forgiven me?" "No," I said without hesitation, "but I would have respected you." She zipped her last bag. Where do I even go? Try the apartment he put you up in, I said, or call the friends who covered for you. But you're not staying here. Not tonight. Not ever. She walked past me, luggage in hand. Raymond closed the door behind her. No farewell, no final word, only the cold echo of silence. I stood in the wreckage of our life, the wine stain still dark on the rug, the envelope now ready for lawyers. Just like that, the life we built was no longer ours. A faint echo of her fragrance still lingered in the air. Raymond stepped closer and extended his hand. You didn't just reveal her, he said. You exposed yourself to all of us, and in doing that, you showed what real courage looks like. Thanks, I said quietly. He gave a deliberate nod. If you need anything at all, Margaret and I are just a call away. Once they left, I began turning off the lights throughout the house, room by room. No tears followed. I didn't pour a drink, I didn't lash out. I simply let the stillness fill the space. And for once, it felt like it belonged to me. The morning after Elena's departure felt surreal. The place didn't resemble home anymore. There was an eerie quiet, as if even the air had been altered overnight. No soft buzz from her hair tools, no trace of her espresso blend wafting through the kitchen, no familiar sound of slippers against the wood floor. Yet I didn't feel crushed by sorrow. What I felt was freedom. I rose earlier than usual and stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom. The same mirror where I had often watched her prepare herself, not for me, but for someone else entirely. My face looked tired but not broken. I was still standing, and now I was unbound. At exactly 8 o'clock, I called Lena Crawford my lawyer. She wasn't just competent. She was relentless, precise, and immune to emotional manipulation. Elena violated the fidelity clause, I told her. I've got hard evidence, videos, photos, eyewitness accounts. She didn't inquire how I'd come by it. Send it all over, she instructed. We'll begin immediately. This will be surgical. No theatrics, no loose ends. It'll be clean. Just how I wanted it. After we hung up, I spent 4 uninterrupted hours cleaning the entire house. Not because it was dirty, but because reclaiming it felt necessary. I stripped the sheets, threw out every scented candle that reminded me of her, packed up her shoes and stashed them in the garage. The room seemed more spacious. The air felt purer. I wasn't mourning. I was reclaiming what was mine. By Tuesday, the legal process was underway, and that's when the messages began. First came, "Can we talk? I'll get help. I'll do anything." Then, "You're erasing me. We had a life. You can't just throw that away." And finally, "I made a mistake. Don't let that ruin everything." But it wasn't one mistake. It was half a year of deception. 6 months of being pushed to the sidelines in my own life. What cut deepest was that she never confessed. I had to uncover everything. I didn't respond to any of her voicemails. By the end of the week, her approach changed. Her circle began to reach out. Nicole, a colleague of hers, texted, "Elena isn't doing well. She's barely eating. Maybe just one call?" I left it unanswered. I wasn't her fallback plan. This wasn't about making amends. She wanted to rewind time and pretend nothing had happened. That Friday, I made a choice. I wouldn't just endure this. I would rebuild. Cleared out the guest room and repurposed it for all the projects I'd once shelved. Enrolled in a woodworking course, something I used to enjoy before marriage consumed all my energy. Booked a solo trip to Asheville. Spent 2 nights in a quiet cabin under a sky full of stars, daring the universe to say something back. For once, I wasn't a provider, protector, or placeholder. I was just Daniel. One night, close to 11 p.m., a message came in from a name I hadn't seen in years. Claire Donovan. We'd once worked on a shipping contract together. Sharp, pragmatic, warm, always quick with a laugh. We had a great connection, but I was married then. Now I wasn't. Her message read, "I heard what happened. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk or just share a quiet drink, I'm here." I smiled. Not because I was ready for something new, but because the old chapter had finally ended. That weekend, I watched the surveillance footage for the last time. Not to punish myself, but to understand fully. What struck me most was how ordinary it all seemed. Elena laughing, pouring wine, leaning on Drew's shoulder. She looked at ease, effortlessly so. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about betrayal. She had outgrown the life we built together, and instead of facing it, she ran. But I didn't run. I stood my ground. I pulled the truth into the open and let it burn away the lies. That's the difference. By Monday, the divorce was moving quickly. She tried calling again. This time, her tone had changed. I broke things off with Drew. I told him it's done. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Please, Daniel, I can be different. Don't shut me out entirely. I didn't replay it. Because forgiveness without accountability is just an invitation for repeat harm. I wasn't looking back. I was walking forward, alone, clear-eyed and honest. 2 weeks after she left, her lawyer sent over a formal request. Elena wanted to meet. Not to debate terms, but to apologize. Lena advised against it. She'll try to manipulate your feelings, she warned. Don't let her turn it into a performance. But I agreed. Not for her. For me. We met in a bland mediation office. Beige walls, plastic plants, bottled water on every table. The kind of place meant to soften hard conversations. Elena walked in wearing a simple dress, minimal makeup. She seemed diminished. Daniel, she said like she wasn't sure how it should sound. I didn't answer. I'm not here to contest anything, she said softly. I'm not going to plead. I know what I did. I gave a small nod. Good. She hesitated. That's all? You didn't come here for closure, I said. You came hoping I'd say you're still the woman I once married. Her gaze searched mine. Aren't I? No, I said. The woman I married wouldn't have kept secrets like that. She inhaled shakily. I ended it with Drew. I know, I said. He called me. She blinked, stunned. He did? I leaned back. He was worried I'd leak the footage, concerned about his job, his name. Told me he didn't know you were still committed to the marriage. Her cheeks flushed. He actually said that? He did. Silence stretched between us. I slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were subpoenaed messages. Not just between her and Drew, but between her and Camille. They weren't just reckless, they were cruel. They laughed, they schemed, they mocked. In one message, Elena had written, Daniel could walk in on us and still be too polite to yell. Poor guy's built for control, not conflict. Her lips parted as she read her own words. You looked through my... No, I interrupted. Camille gave it to me. She saw what you'd become and handed everything over. Elena covered her face with her hands. And just like that, the final thread snapped. It was the last moment she would ever hold power over me. I'm not angry anymore, I said to her. I'm just done. And whether or not you believe it, I genuinely hope that one day you find clarity within yourself. Because whoever you became during all of this, I pray that wasn't the real you. She wept in silence, the tears slipping down her cheeks without a word. But there was no satisfaction in it for me, only stillness. Because true closure doesn't come from slammed doors or shouting matches that leave your throat raw. It comes from standing in front of the person who broke you and realizing you're still intact. A week passed and the paperwork was signed. No last-minute confessions, no what-ifs hanging in the air, just a clean final line drawn in ink. Since then, I've repainted the walls in the bedroom, brought home a rescue dog, picked up morning runs again. And just last month, Claire and I shared a deep laugh over bourbon, just like she once said we would. We're not rushing things. There's no illusion, no act, just honesty. It's odd, the way freedom sounds like stillness, and how beautiful that quiet can be. This is where our story ends. If you've read this far, I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you for your presence and your attention. If this spoke to you, feel free to explore the rest of the channel. Until we meet again, my friend.